One of the guys that Rob had interaction with in his early run here in the WWF is Owen Hart. He had looked up to Owen Hart because of all the high-flying moves and whatnot, and Owen really put over Rob in a big way and said, man, I could steal 5 matches from just watching one of yours. I thought it was pretty cool that so many guys, especially from this era, really have such respect for Owen. It says a lot about Owen as a performer and as a man, right?
Owen was a great performer, and Owen was an innovator long before he came into the WWE. I remember back at what I think was WrestleMania 5, I guess. But Owen Hart in Germany and Japan, people were talking about Owen's moves then being things that they had never, ever seen before. So Owen Hart to the boys, especially young talent, they looked at Owen, and Owen always strived to be different and to innovate versus imitate.
One of the things that happened pretty early in the run is Paul Heyman is constantly saying, if you're uncomfortable with anything, just say the word and we'll go. Sort of insinuating Rob didn't have to do anything that he didn't want to for the WWF. And Rob felt like it was his mission to sort of help get ECW over. And one of the early matches that were proposed were that the Road Dogg Jesse James would go over Rob Van Dam. And this is a different time, of course. And Rob said something like, hey, if we're doing jobs here, how does this help the company? And Paulie said, hey, if you want to leave, we'll leave. So they decide to leave, but they go talk to Vince McMahon first. And that's the first time Vince meets Rob. And Vince says something to the effect of, I plan on you staying here in the WWF, or else I wouldn't put your face on TV. And I see you as a baby face. Do you remember this first meeting with Vince and Rob Van Dam?
Sure I do, because Paul was stirring everything up, and Paul was trying to get these guys. It wasn't that the boys didn't want to do a job. It was Paul didn't want them to do a job. And it was Paul feeling that if they did a job on RTV, that would hurt ECW. The fact that we're putting them on TV and doing something with them helps ECW by the exposure alone. And there were stories to it. And as Vince said, I wouldn't put you on TV if I didn't have plans for you wanting to do something with you.
Well, and one of the things I read in my research that I sort of found hard to believe is you guys were actually planning to take this ECW, WWF stuff a step further. Allegedly, according to the rumor and innuendo, at SummerSlam 1997, a Rob Van Dam and Sabu tag team was proposed to take on Tommy Dreamer and Sandman. That's right, at SummerSlam 97. Now, obviously that didn't happen, but according to the legend, it didn't happen because Rob sort of didn't want to do the job for Jesse James, and plans change, as they say, and that relationship sort of falls apart. Why did the relationship sort of come apart at the seams in 97 with ECW from an on-air standpoint?
For that reason, that Paul, I think Paul got people so stirred up that, they didn't want to do jobs, and they didn't want to. It's fine telling a story as long as I win. But when I lose, I don't want to tell the story anymore. I want to be on your TV as long as I win. And that just doesn't work, because to tell a story, you have to have winners and losers. And that's why it fell apart. And if there was going to be a debate over that every single time, Vince didn't want to deal with it.
So did you ever have a conversation with anybody about a proposed ECW match at SummerSlam 97, or is that just a bullshit deal?
I think that's just people talking and saying, it's probably Dave Meltzer sitting there going, I know what they're going to do. They're going to have a tag team match. But that was never on the books, and that wasn't something. If anything, we would have had ECW guys against WWE guys.
He winds up staying in ECW, has an incredible run with the ECW title for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days. Over a year, well over a year. He wins the tag titles a couple of times with Sabu. And then eventually in late 2000, Rob is looking for somewhere to land because the checks aren't coming in. And he feels like the longer he's here, the bigger hole he's going to be dug. He's still getting his guarantee, but he's not getting pay-per-view bonuses. He's not getting merchandise payments. So he's looking to jump off of a sinking ship, but he does make one last appearance at the last pay-per-view, January 7th, 2001, where he beat Jerry Lynn, and allegedly he wanted a guarantee that was twice as much as had been paid before, and it had to be cash. Paul agreed to do it, but when Rob got there and asked for it, Paul said, I didn't think you meant cash. How great
Excuse me, sir. You mean cash as in Benjamins? Oh, sir, I feel that you are highly mistaken. If I could have another volley, what I thought you meant by cash was I would give you one of these fine pieces of paper with a dollar amount on it that you may take to your bank. They may not be able to cash it right away, but you will have it for double your guarantee, sir.
Probably the biggest highlight of Rob's ECW career is winning the television title from Bam Bam Bigelow. And I think that happened in 98. And there's a pretty iconic moment there when he climbs to the top rope and then jumps from the top of the ring out to the floor, like on the other side of the guardrail, and flips over. Did you remember seeing anything of Rob's run in ECW before he came up and thinking, fuck, we got to get this guy?
I just was, believe it or not, I was always a fan of Rob's because of his look, and he was different. His work was different. He didn't work like every other guy. I wasn't as big of a fan of his hardcore stuff and a lot of that, but I was more of a fan of his uniqueness.
Let's talk about when it's all over. When did you guys want to get in business with Rob Van Dam, and why didn't it happen sooner?
Well, I wanted to get in business with Rob Van Dam all the way back to 1997. I remember somewhere in there between like 98 and 2000 being at a show at the Galaxy Theater in California, outside of Los Angeles, for a UPW show. And we were up in a box and everything, and somebody came down and said, hey, Rob Van Dam's here. And Rob was in a box on the completely other side. He stuck his head in and said hello, and I went down and talked to him and handed him my card. And I said, you know that whenever you're ready to make a move, I sure would appreciate it if you'd give me a call. He said, of course, love to, man. He goes, I'm good right now. But I've always been a fan of Rob's and always felt he'd be a good fit with the WWE.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.